up, you guys? This is Rob from Guy Plays, and today we're going to be taking a look at some of the upcoming weapon buffs. Yes, I said buffs and not nerfs. The nerfs will actually be in a separate video. However, I wanted to start this one out a little bit differently before we got onto the good stuff. Okay, so let's be real. Every now and then it happens, whether it's a veteran channel, a drama channel, or etc. Occasionally a Warframe content creator will lose their goddamn mind for a hot second and say something stupid like, I am the only one you should trust. I am the only one you should watch. I am the only one whose builds work, and I am the only one who is an expert in this specific field. Now, of course, a smart viewer would be like, damn, why are you being so defensive? I mean, if you're good, you're good. You don't need to shit on anyone else's content. Like, let your work speak for itself. I mean, let's take a look at what I've done with Fashion Frame, right? I was one of the first Fashion Frame reviewers, if not the first. I was also the person who popularized the current color coding system that we have going on till this very day. In fact, even though they want to burn me at the stake, they want to see me bloody and beaten and dead, Reddit still thinks that I'm a halfway decent color specialist in Warframe. And even with all of that under my belt, I have never once told anyone that you should not be looking at other people's Fashion Frame content. Because the thing is, we have a gigantic, enormous community of Warframe YouTubers, and it would be pretty damn arrogant of me to think that I am the only one who can do what I'm currently doing, right? I mean, you should let your work speak for itself. Take a look at the Officium. Anyway, with that aside, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to link a whole bunch of Warframe YouTubers down in the description box below. I may not agree with all of their perspectives, but I respect their right to have it on their channel. Okay, let's be real. I like 95% of them, but you know, keep the other shit on their channel. I'm also gonna go ahead and toss a bunch of glyphs down below to show your support of multiple YouTubers. Go ahead and swap those out on a general basis just to kind of show everybody, hey, I'm a smart viewer that takes into account a lot of different perspectives, and as an individual, I'm able to decide what works for me and what doesn't work for me. Anyway, let's cut this all off and let's get to the good stuff. So the miter has now had its projectile speed increased, it's got a faster charge time, and had a slight increase to its crit chance, 5% for a quick shot and 10% for a charge. So all in all, it's not a massive change to the miter, but if you liked it before, you're gonna like it even more now. And with that out of the way, we can talk about the Panthera. Now this one I am super jazzed about. Its primary is now gonna be full auto, and it's had an increase in its fire rate. Its primary status is 20%, and criticals 10% of the time with a 2x crit multiplier. However, where it gets really juicy is its secondary fire. Its status chance jumps up to 35% and has a critical chance of 25%. This couples perfectly with the new critical multiplier, and I'm crossing my fingers really makes the Panthera something worth using. The whole concept of it is so amazing, and its stats before were just absolute garbage, so I am crossing my fingers for this one. Now next up, we have something a little bit more complicated. The Buzzlock has had its base damage increased from 60 to 45. Its critical multiplier has also been increased up to 2 points, while its primary fire's crit chance is boosted up to 15%. But where it gets really interesting is the fact that its crit chance is increased to 50% on anything that you have attached a homing beacon on. Its homing beacon's flight speed has also been increased and consumes only 2 ammo instead of 10. This definitely increases its ease of use and encourages you to use a special mechanic, which I think is fantastic. However, there is a bit of a caveat because of the fact that it's had its cost reduced. Its mag has been downsized from 75 to 50. I'm super excited to see how this all pans out, especially with that boost to its crit. Next up is the Parasis, which got a small base damage increase as well as a small crit boost of 5%. However, where it gets really interesting is that its status chance has doubled to 30%. 30% on a weapon whose base damage is purely toxin can make for some amazing elemental combos. I cannot wait to try this one out. And in addition to all that, its secondary fire has had its range increased up to 50 meters. 50 freaking meters, that is insane. Next up on the Harpoon train, the Harpack has had its recoil reduced and its crit increased by 5%. And while I am excited about the reduced recoil, that doesn't really sound all that great until we get to its alt fire. The Harpoon is now instant cast and has its range buffed to a whopping 40 meters. Not as big as the Parasis, but it's instant. Think of all of the chains you could throw out, that is gonna be hilarious. Now the next one I am definitely torn about because the Ogress has been my worst enemy for the longest time. However, it has had its base damage increase increased from 500 to 600, while its impact damage has been reduced from 150 down to 100, which I think is a totally fine trade-off since you're doing majority of your damage to the blast zone anyway. It's also had its flight speed and charge time increase, which I think is fantastic, but the real supplemental that takes the cake is the fact that its status chance has jumped from 10 to 35%. Holy shit, can we say CC explosions? Anything that does not die straight off the bat is definitely going to be inflicted with some kind of status, and I know you guys get creative with all that shit, so we'll see what you do. I did catch one bit though. They did say that they increased the radius up to 6 meters, but the wiki already says 6 meters, so I don't really quite know what's going on over there. Regardless, just for fun, this might be really interesting to try out with Nightwatch Napalm, especially since you've got the CC to keep them trapped in that little fiery area. Alright, so neck and neck with the Ogress was the changes to the Attica. This time around, it's got its crit chance boosted up to 25%, and now it's got a 2x critical multiplier, which matches that of the Z-Huge. It's also got increased ammo capacity, increased fire rate, and the one that I'm most excited about, reduced weapon recoil. This actually makes it quite comparable with the Z-Huge only really winning out with that 35% status chance of his. And yes, FYI, I am calling it the Z-Huge just to piss you off. Now a little bit lower on the list is the Galaxion. Its base damage has been increased to 333 from 250. Now, I am assuming this means damage per second, because the next thing that they follow it up with is a little bit cryptic. They have said that its ammo economy has been improved. So, while it might be putting out 333 damage per second, I don't know if they're going to skew the numbers just a little bit different to make sure that it's not eating up so much ammo. Regardless, it's had an increase in accuracy, but in trade, it has had a decrease in range from 30 meters down to 24. And the next one down the line is the Mutalist Quanta. They haven't really posted any statistical changes for this one, however they did say that its alt fire will now stack, similarly to the Cyanoid Simulor, creating a larger infested bubble for you to shoot through. And last, but kind of least on the buffs list, we have the Hind. They've added a single-shot semi-automatic alt fire to the Hind with increased damage, critical, and status chance, but not given us any of those statistics to let us know how much they've increased it by. So I can't really gauge its effectiveness since we have no stats provided, however, it still looks ugly as fuck, and you know, fashion frame is endgame. Alrighty, so that pretty much covers all of the upcoming weapon buffs, but do not worry, we will be talking about the nerfs. However, we're going to do it in a separate video. I kind of wanted to give these weapons a little bit of space because of the fact that they don't get necessarily used all that often. They're not necessarily the most optimal in their current state. So I don't want all of that negativity from the nerfs to pollute the fact that these ones may actually become new favorites for people. So let me know what you guys think about the buffs in the comments below. We'll talk about the nerfs in a different video, so don't worry about that. And that pretty much does it for me. So as always, love somebody, hurt nobody, and touch your body. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.